Hello, everybody. Happy May 20th, 2020. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And on today's show, we have the Xavier football coach, Andy Guyon. Coach Guyon, thanks so much for being able to come on today.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you having us on.
It's great to be able to have you, talk all things about Xavier football. But before we get into that, just tell me about your coaching career, your path that got you to Xavier.
Well, I started off at Bristol Central. I think it was 1998.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was able to go back to my alma mater, Sacred Heart, and GA'd there for 2 years. Bounced around a couple places. Ended up being defensive coordinator at Southington for 07 and 08, and then landed at Xavier in 09. Been there ever since. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you've been at Xavier for quite a bit. And what is kind of the, during your path, every stop that you had, there must have been something that you learned between Bristol and so on. So what was that?
I think from starting to now, obviously you learn a lot more scheme stuff. You improve every day as a coach, and every season as a coach. You learn different things. Well, maybe that didn't work, or there's a different way to game plan. There's a different way to get your players ready. Different drills to do, different tackling drills, especially on defense, different coverages, and then how you evolve. I mean, you have a philosophy, but at the same time, you got to evolve with the different offenses you see from where I started to where we are now, as far as defending an offense or special teams or anything like that. I mean, things have changed so much. So, from the days of a tight end with two backs in the backfield to now, 4 and 5 wide receivers, and offenses are thrown it all over the place. So it's been a pretty neat evolution, and trying to keep up with the offense so that you give your kids the best opportunity to be successful.
Well, if you want to come to the NVL, I mean, there's plenty of running games going on. I mean, double wing, triple wing, we got the hammer. I mean, we've got everything with the kitchen sink coming for you.
Yeah, I hear you. And looking at the NVL, and then you look at the SEC, and the teams that we play. We actually scrimmaged in Augatuck last year, so we got a chance to see what the NVL is about a little bit, and Coach Salazzo was doing a great job there. Kids played hard; they had some talent, so that was a good scrimmage for us. And then, of course, Ansonia is always Ansonia. I mean, Tommy Brockett just does an incredible job of getting that program at a high level every year. So nothing but respect for those guys. And Gaetan Rodriguez is a good friend of mine. He's at Torrington, and he's fighting the fight. He's battling every day. He's had his ups and downs like all of us have, but he'll get it going. He'll keep it going at Torrington.
Especially, you speak of Gaetan Rodriguez, he finds ways to work with whatever, he has. And, I even asked him, because there was a couple of games that I was able to broadcast where I said, all right, so you run the double wing? And he's like, no. And then he called it something else. And I'm like, I've never heard of this. And he's like, yeah, it's something I just came up with because I got to work with what I have.
Yeah. And that's the beauty about high school coaches is, I mean, we're talking, we got to defend spread 4 wide to, the double wing the next week to the single wing, like us against North Haven. So, I mean, we've got to be able to adapt and adjust, and whether it's offense, defense, special teams. Whereas you look at, the NFL, it's almost like 7-on-7 with linemen, and college football is all over the place, running the RPOs and all that offense. But high school, I mean, I have so much respect for high school guys, because we really have a lot to learn in order to stop or execute what we can.
Have you noticed anything with the players as far as, from the first time you started coaching till now? Is there anything in particular that you've noticed that maybe players have changed, either their work habits or maybe their training, their eating habits, anything in particular?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think kids have become a lot more educated about what they need to do with their bodies, with sleep, with schoolwork, with the NCAA regulations to make sure that they're eligible once they're freshmen. I don't think kids have changed. I think, kids are kids, but they definitely have become a lot more educated about what they can do with their bodies, with training, in order to get themselves ready to play.
I've kind of noticed that too, because now with the glory of having these little things called iPhones, they're always on
Yeah.
their phones and they're trying to,
Yep.
put out their huddle tape, or they're trying to
Yep.
contact coaches. They follow every coach known to mankind, and that's great. And
Hmm.
anytime, if I'm asked to come to speak to, a team or a group of kids, the first thing I tell them is social media could be your friend or your worst enemy. You want it to be your
Yeah.
friend, because
Yeah.
once what did Herm Edwards say? Once you hit, think about before you click send or hit send or something like
Yep.
that.
Yes. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. And then, you know, that digital footprint stays there forever. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So, um, yeah, they have to be, super, super careful. And then you look at, like, I'm a huge Patriots fan. I love Bill Belichick. So you
Mm-hmm.
look the Patriots guys, like, they're off social media. Like, he's done with it once training camp starts, and he makes sure that they are too. It's like blocking out the noise.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, get rid of the distractions. We try and preach that to our players. Um, just focus on what you can control, and you don't need to listen to all that other garbage.
Now, before we get into a couple players that I want to talk about, there was a couple quotes that you said that I wanted to ask you. One of them was that you said, I think prior to the 2019 season, you said SEC football is a different brand of football. What did you mean by that?
It's just a different animal. I mean, I'm biased, obviously, because I've coached in the SEC for so long, um, and I have a lot of pride in our conference, because you have to coach and you have to get your players to play at a high level every single week. There's no weeks off. I mean, you look at the SEC Tier 1, or even Tier 2, um, Shelton Prep, Notre Dame, us, Hand, North Haven, Sheehan. John's done a phenomenal job at Sheehan of building them up. Hamden's always tough. Cheshire, the history of Cheshire Cheshire high school football is, almost unparalleled in the state. So, I mean, every week it is a meat grinder, and our conference commissioner Al Carbone does a great job of promoting our conference, but it wears on you. It definitely wears on you. When you sit there and have to go Prep, Shelton, Notre Dame, Hand, North Haven, West Haven to end the year, it's like, whew, where's the break? The coaching is just
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal. It's so hard every week to sit there and when you look at on Saturdays and Sundays, when you're breaking down these teams, and you're like, okay, how are we going to stop this? How are we going to stop this? Or how are we going to block this dude?
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to block their front? Between the coaching and the talent, it's one of the best, if not the best, in the state.
I'm sure there must be times, not saying that you do this, but where you're like, I wish we were like in a different tier, or just give us like some kind of break. But then at the same time, you also can't really show that to your players, because then if they
Right.
start saying, "Oh, woe is me," then that's
Yeah.
when bad stuff starts to happen.
Well, the other thing is, we're also competitive in our
Mhm.
league. Every single one of us. I mean, we respect each other to
Mhm.
no end. But that game week, like, there's just venom. There's that intensity of, I want to beat this guy,
Mhm.
or I want to beat this team, whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, there are times when you're like, oh, I wish we had somebody else's schedule. But at the same time, if you want to be the best, if you want to land yourself in the top 10, you want to get to the playoffs, you want to get to state championship games and win them, then you've got to play the best competition, because December football is not easy to win. So you need to be tested.
And you have the horses. I mean, Xavier, very talented team. I know last year maybe the record did not show it, but there's a lot of talent coming back. And we'll
Yes.
hit on three players. The first one, Malcolm Wilson Tolliver. I really want to, there's two defensive guys I want to talk about, but he's the first one. He's impressive.
He's got a motor that I can't describe. He's talented. He's aggressive. He's a character. He's but he's a kid who you just dream to coach, because he's going to give you everything he has every single play, and he just soaks up coaching, and he wants to learn and he wants to be better. He's doing a good job throughout this quarantine of getting himself squared away in the classroom, and we're very proud of him for that. He's just a worker, and he wrestled last off season, or last winter, and he took his lumps a little bit, so he got a little humble pie, but it's going to help him in the long run. Our wrestling program's phenomenal with Mike Cunningham as our head coach, and they won a state championship for Class L, and Malcolm, I think, learned a lot about himself and what it's going to take for him to be successful.
And it's good he played another sport, because especially wrestling, that kind of parlays with football because of all the certain techniques and what you have to do. And I would think that, like you mentioned, it did exceptional work as far as being able to take that next step for him as an athlete.
Yeah. The biggest thing that I think he's going to take out of it is the mental toughness. Mm-hmm. Being able to compete when you're tired, being able to compete when you're exhausted, and fighting through adversity, all those things that you want to teach to your team and to your players. He was able to learn a little bit the hard way, but it's good.
Now, how about this next player who even you were telling me this kid's an absolute monster, Michael Reddick?
Yeah. Mike, he's another one with personality. We've got a cast of characters this year for sure. But Michael is, again, he's a worker, but he's so talented, so fast. Again, a kid with a motor. He reminds me of Osi Umenyiora from the Giants. Fast, competitive. Mm-hmm. They're against New London. I can just remember against New London, he beat their left tackle like a drum, and he was in the backfield. But I think before the quarterback had even really taken the ball up to throw it. He just has natural ability, and he's great with his hands. Another wrestler. Mm-hmm. So we're thrilled with him. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch. He's only going to be a junior, and I think he had 4 sacks or 5 sacks last year. Mm-hmm. And is really coming on, starting to figure it out.
I was watching a lot of his huddle tape, and there was one piece that I'm going to put on this interview because he broke 2 tackles. The first one, he destroyed the left guard, and then the left tackle, he basically just said, "Get off me," and he took down the quarterback. And I was like, you see this happen in high school, you're like, okay.
Yeah, and then you realize he was only a sophomore.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
You're like, yeah, all right, yeah, he's gonna make it a lot of fun to scheme on third down, mm-hmm. To create some nightmares for some quarterbacks.
It seems to me that the wrestling program is getting a lot of the football players. Are you telling your guys like, hey, go play football, or go do wrestling, go under, go learn a little bit, because it seems like the wrestling program is in the right place.
100%. I couldn't agree more with that statement. Our sorry about that. Our another coach calling.
Oh, you're why not?
Yeah. I have no reservations about our kids wrestling. When you looked at our team last year, one of our linebackers, Marcellus Ruiz, who's headed down to Southern to play, he was a wrestler. Ryan Miner, who was our safety and our slot receiver, who's headed to Ithaca, he was a wrestler. And I have a great relationship with Mike, and he, not that he had to sell me on it, but it was more or less, hey, what do you think? And I'm like, you know what? Enough's enough. We've got to get our guys wrestling. Mm-hmm. and it's done nothing but pay us back. So,
It's worked wonders on the defensive side for players to play multiple positions, or rather multiple sports, I should say. And speaking of that, your quarterback, Drew Braun, he's a baseball player, and it's good to have a baseball player playing quarterback, because in some ways it's the same motion, just like throwing a baseball.
Drew, as a freshman, started in our outfield on the varsity baseball team. That should tell you what type of athlete he is.
Mm-hmm.
And he won the quarterback competition in August. We had 4 kids who were good quarterbacks, and Drew won the job. I could just think back throughout the season, he just got better and better and better. We didn't start off as well as we would have liked,
Mm-hmm.
but he kind of grew up a little bit against New London. He was phenomenal against Hamden, so he kind of got his confidence and got his bearings. And then against Fairfield Prep, he was lights out, and that was a huge win for our program last year, and he had a lot to do with it. So we're all so excited to have him back, because we can just see the level of improvement every time he takes the field.
He looks comfortable in the pocket too, because a couple clips that I saw, he's able to move up, but then it's not like where, okay, I move up and then I throw it. He'll move up in the pocket. If he doesn't like what he sees, he'll roll out to his left or his right, and then he'll make throws. And that's where, again, playing baseball, where you have to make, maybe not for him because he's an outfielder or such, and having to make throws, from different arm angles. Because of him playing baseball, he has the ability to do that, which then allows him at the quarterback position, where if he has a, let's say, defensive tackle coming in, he could kind of sling it from the side, and it's a comfortable motion for him.
Yeah, it's and again, a sophomore in high school playing our schedule, playing the teams that we play, and he's cool as a cucumber. If he makes a mistake, he owns it, lives up. What do I have to do to be better? What can I do to improve on that situation? Turns the page and moves on. So he's just phenomenal in the classroom as well. So he's everything you want in a student athlete.
Now, would you say, with the collection of talent that we just mentioned, plus others that you have on the Xavier roster, that maybe this 2020 season, whenever it's played, and hopefully there's more than just X amount of games being played,
right,
that there could be a better season to come in 2020?
Yeah, I firmly believe that we're on the rise. We're growing up. As a coaching staff, we're figuring things out together, and then the players are as well. Mm-hmm. So we're getting better every single day. And I mean, we feel like we've got a really good team. And this year in 2020, I think more than ever, coaching is going to really determine how good teams are, because we've got, we haven't been able to see our kids. So what are we doing with them once we get back to practice and back to meetings and strength and conditioning and all that stuff? So we're going to put a lot of pressure on ourselves as coaches to get our kids ready, especially with what we think is a very special group.
And with these times kind of not allowing you to be able to work with the players, and because of potentially not being able to be in practice on August 17th, it's really going to, I think, benefit the teams and players who have been working during this time to stay in shape until whenever they practice. And then also, and I've said the same thing too at the NFL level, when you have a returning head coach and you have a returning staff, plus, your quarterback that you don't have to worry about because, you're not going to have the practice time, that I think will help teams. And for yourself, you have, I think everyone back on the staff. You're still the head coach. You have your quarterback. I mean, it sounds like you have set guys at certain positions, so it's less of a worry, and you don't have to coach as much trying to get a new quarterback or a new just name the position. It allows you to be able to focus on prepping for the actual games.
Yeah, I think one thing that we are focusing on is the offensive line, just like everybody does. Making sure we've got the right 5 guys in the right spots. And we do have the right side of our line. Michael Reddick plays right guard, and then our right tackle, Dante Aparo, He's a senior. He's coming back, so it's good that we have those guys back. And then there's a group, probably about 4 or 5 other kids who from center, left guard, left tackle, that we're gonna work and figure out where they belong and get that group solidified. So our skill kids are really good. We have a lot of receivers. Our running back coming back. He was a sophomore too. His name is DJ Wright. Again, student athlete, phenomenal in the classroom, and then just does a great job in the weight room. And you can just see like how competitive he is, and it carries over to the rest of them. So we're excited about our offense.
Coach Guyon, we've just about run out of time, but I really do appreciate you being, coming on the show to talk about Xavier football and just to highlight some of the players, and also yourself as a coach. As you've done a fine job with Xavier and your travels getting to the high school.
Thank you. I appreciate you having us on.
No problem. Anytime. That'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.